Seattle Councilmember Lisa Herbold is a fraud, and she's growing increasingly dangerous. Welcome to the Jason Rantz Show, brought to you by the Novak team, powered by Keller Williams. Visit them online at meetthenovaks.com. We've always known that Councilmember Lisa Herbold of West Seattle wasn't particularly bright. When you are an ideologue, it's really easy to lean into stupid ideas, and boy, has she had plenty. But even bad faith, foolish people can be dangerous. Arguably, they can be the most dangerous when in positions of power. Lisa Herbold is mad that 4 of the 6 Seattle police officers who attended the January 6th rally for President Trump at the Capitol, that they've been cleared of wrongdoing. The investigation by the civilian-led Office of Police Accountability, it was a politically driven sham. They denied every single officer due process rights, forcing them to turn over private documents like photos, texts, receipts, all under the threat of termination. The OPA was out to get anything they could in order to justify firing these cops. They ended up claiming 2 of the officers were close enough to the Capitol to see illegal behavior, and they didn't report it. It also said that they were trespassing, and for that, they should be fired. Keep in mind, however, no officer has been charged with a crime. Still, 4 officers got off with no punishment. Lisa Herbold doesn't like that. Herbold released a statement before she even read the investigative documents. She was outraged, or at least she pretended to be. She said, quote, "I told OPA Director Andrew Meyerberg that I believe that the investigation should go further than asking the question of what actions SPD employees took while in DC, and should include an inquiry of whether SPD employees traveled to DC with the knowledge, like so many people did, that there was going to be an attempted insurrection." So it appears she wants another investigation, a criminal one. Who knew what and when? She said in her statement that she's now looking into whether or not OPA asked the cleared officers certain questions, and if OPA sought evidence as to whether or not these officers had advanced knowledge of the violence. This is a dangerous escalation. This is a witch hunt, and she's never going to be satisfied until these cops are fired. Not only is she effectively demanding a civilian agency continue with this witch hunt, her only basis for concern is that the officers went to a Trump rally. That's it. They supported Trump, and in Seattle, that's a crime. There's no indication that any of the officers knew of any violence being planned. But to Herbold, it doesn't matter. ACAB, am I right? The council member's position is informed by a bias that views all cops as extremists. Using a left-wing think tank that suggests extremist groups have strong ties to police departments, Herbold implies that these cops could be extremists themselves. This is a disgusting and calculated smear. But when you're viciously anti-police, it's not shocking. You see, Lisa Herbold has a long history of hating police officers, unless, of course, it could get her some votes. You see, when she was running for re-election and noticed some of the residents were concerned with the mass exodus of police from the department and the accompanied rise in crime, Herbold took a different approach. In fact, at a town hall organized by the police union, Herbold actually pretended to want more cops. Take a look at this.
We need to fulfill our commitment to the public to grow the size of our police department. In 2014, we made a pledge to grow our police department by 200 officers. We have dedicated the money to do so. We have created new positions to do so. And now we need to focus on practices that will encourage recruitment and retention of our police department.
Back then, when she was desperate for votes and scared she'd be punished for promoting policies that are quite literally killing people, she was all about supporting the cops. But after re-election, well, she changed her tune. Just months later at a Seattle Council hearing, this is what she said.
On the 2020 SPD budget, and a pathway and a plan for how to leverage the decisions that we are making right now to reduce the size of the police department in 2021.
Lisa Herbold never supported the police, and she's always been a liar. She's a radical anti-cop politician who wants to do her level best to abolish the police. She'll just talk her way around it. In the meantime, she tries her best to play woke white lady with a nose ring. She's so edgy. She's so cool. I wish she were my grandma. I don't. You see, she's tried to push cops out of the department for the last year. During the height of the defund movement, Herbold learned that the fired cops would have to go in order of newly hired. You can't just fire the people with the experience, you go after the new hires. It was a position that then Police Chief Carmen Best made really clear. Those new hires just happen to be pretty diverse, racially diverse. And if there's one thing Herbold is willing to support, it's race-baiting virtue signaling. So Herbold said, just fire the white officers, spare the racially diverse ones.
She's making the argument to the public now that firing BIPOC members of the Seattle Police Department would be harmful. I agree wholeheartedly, and I know that the chief can argue just as convincingly that maintaining the employment of BIPOC officers is in the interest of efficient operations of the SPD. In requesting permission to do layoffs out of order.
There's a word for what she just suggested: racist. Now back to the present. Using the Trump rally and the subsequent riot at the Capitol, Herbold now wants to push out those 4 officers who were found to have not violated any law. They must have known of the violence, right? How could they not have? I mean, law enforcement didn't prepare as if there was going to be a riot. Journalists certainly weren't sounding the alarms. Lisa Herbold definitely didn't say anything at the time. But those cops had to have known because they're clearly extremists. And of course, they're conservative. Oh, okay. Perhaps Herbold should be investigated too. Despite seeing the violence against police outside of the East Precinct in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing that Herbold pretended to care about, the radical council member showed up to a violent rally. The night before, cops were assaulted as radicals from Antifa, the Black Lives Matter movement, and other agitators tried to take over the police precinct on Capitol Hill. Now, despite the attacks against cops, Lisa Herbold and her fellow council members, they showed up to the next night in order to support the mob that was attacking police officers. Take a look at this. Councilmember Andrew Lewis took a cute little selfie while radicals were throwing bottles and glass candles and rocks at cops. At one point, the cops were actually threatened with murder. Now, the woman here in this photo in the glasses right there, the one who's up way past her 6 p.m. bedtime, that's Lisa Herbold. Lisa Herbold supported the future insurrectionists who took up arms to commandeer an autonomous zone known as CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. She was a founding mother of the Capitol Hill insurrection. Using the logic that Herbold frames in her criticism of the cleared cops, shouldn't she face an investigation? We all knew police were under attack before they abandoned the East Precinct. Herbold was at the rally where violence occurred and cops were threatened. Did she know of the plan to commit violence? Shouldn't she have? Even if her participation was as a passive observer, shouldn't she be held to account? I demand an investigation. Look, no matter what the OPA investigation results showed, Herbold was ready to pounce. If all 6 committed crimes, Herbold would have painted this to attack all cops. They all are like this. And if any cop was deemed innocent, she would question whether or not the investigation did its due diligence. She doesn't like the police. And Herbold uses them to stay in front of a radical base of Seattle voters that she needs to keep her in power. The goal in all of this is really, really simple. She wants to run as many cops out of the SPD as possible. She doesn't care if she tramples on rights or even makes Seattle more dangerous in the process. And that's why she is particularly dangerous.